Hi, Lo. So a while back last year, I want to say, me and my friends had like a Google slideshow in which we just put whatever the hell we want on it. Eventually, we put too much like guns and war and stuff on it, so we couldn't do it at school. We still wrote quite a lot of lore for it, and one of my friends dared me to make a video explaining some of that. I will not be explaining the formal lore we wrote for it, because that would take far too long. So instead, I will explain the lore for some of the characters we didn't actually write down. Meow. Okay, so to give you a little taste of how completely unhinged those slides were, this is the Eye God. He was once an acolyte of a worshipped figure in the lore called Dave the Magical Cheese Wizard, who you can see here. He saw himself as a preacher of Dave's faith, converting thousands in the town he lived in. However, upon death, he ascended to the Davest heaven. Of course, he lived in the afterlife as an angel and began to grow quite an ego. He saw himself as higher than the gods themselves, and even went on trips to Earth simply to preach about an apocalypse he was to bring. He framed himself as a savior to the people and was eventually killed in the fight with Dave and his archangels. This was written by middle schoolers. Okay, so to stray away from the divine for a moment, this is Keith Grant. He hosted a talk show for a broadcasting company called CDS Broadcasting. However, because Big Greedy Company will Big Greedy Company, they began to restrict the budget and runtime for his show. He and the audience members were in distress, so a plan was in order. He rallied up two crew members, who happened to be his friends, Joey and Luke. Together, they would absolutely run the show into the ground, with Joey drinking 5 gallons of alcohol before live recording, and Luke being absolutely brutal to those on show, screaming, "Get a load of this, loser!" CDS could not simply fire the trio because the audience loved it, so slowly they began promoting Keith until eventually he was as close to the top as he could be. He got the show back on track and even let Joey and Luke run a Wheel of Prizes segment. This is about as tame as the lore gets, mind you. Okay, so this is Neroyo, completely separate from any and all beloved Italian/Japanese mascots. He's a skinwalker-like entity who manifested in a dimension called the Erebus and eventually made his way to Earth. He became known as a popular cryptid up until the day he killed and skinned an Italian plumber, and no, not the one you're thinking of. He wore the plumber's skin and traversed cities, only exiting the suit to consume victims, usually stalking theme parks and back alleys, occasionally stalking sewers. I told you this lore was insane, did I not? Okay, so before I tell you this one's name, just know that every lore I contribute to has someone of this name. This is Susan, not the one from the Susan Inn, and not the one in your air ventilation using your Netflix account to watch Demon Slayer. She was a scientist widely known to be genius in every way until she conducted multiple Frankenstein-esque experiments. After the FBI stormed her lab and walked out hours later, she was widely presumed dead. However, this is because rather than terminating her, they had hired her to run experiments for the government. She ran dozens of experiments, most successful, creating several zombified and ghostly entities. It wasn't until she, along with the entirety of her lab and several other government authority members, were struck by lightning did her bloody reign end. Hope you remembered all that, because this next one actually ties into her. This jolly little dead fella is Rue. He was once a normal, mundane, stereotypical child who was kidnapped by Susan at a park and brutally experimented on until he became a ghost zombie thing. Upon Susan's death, he was able to break free from the lab and simply traveled to the same park in the middle of nowhere. He would stalk the park and wonder why nobody ever came back to it. Turns out it was shut down for investigation. Several authority members came to the park soon after to find out what happened to Rue. Only one member of the team ever found him, and was greeted by with pure jolly disposition. Rue, in his eyes, made a new friend and even stalked the cop back home. It was there where he made friends with the cop's three children and has just kind of chilled with them ever since. Honestly, Rue is one of my favorite characters in the lore, bro. Also, this is Rue's mother walking to Susan's lab because Susan's lab. Time for a lightning round! This fella is Baxter. He's basically just Hot Pop from the episode Planter's Last Stand. If instead of redeeming himself, he locked himself in an oven, died, and then came back as a demon who cannibalized people. How fun! This dude is Eugene. He's a stalker. Kinda like the friend I mentioned in this video. This is Charlie. He's a World War II British person who drinks too much. Ignore Dustin Henderson in the bottom right corner. This is an unnamed American idiot, but also a child. This is an obsession. This is another obsession. And this is the end of the video. See you in time amount of time. Maybe. How magical.